Hey guys, it's Haruhi and welcome to my first ever scripted video. I've never really done a video like this, so I'm still kinda nervous, but there'll probably be less mistakes since I'm reading off of a script. Anyway, I plan to do one of these videos a week, and this week's topic, as voted by you guys on Twitter, is what are my favorite Pokemon of each type? Let me tell you, it was hard to choose one for each type, especially since a few Pokemon here have dual types, but I went down a list as I decided, and I'll be reading them in that same order. Let's get started, shall we? First up, we have Normal type, and my favorite Normal type is Minccino. Minccino is the only Generation 5 Pokemon on this list, but I just love it so much. When I was younger, I was really into everything a Pokemon game had to offer outside of battling, and in Unova, that was the Pokemon musicals. False rumors spread around my schoolyard that cute Pokemon like Minccino scored better in musicals, so I started using one, and ended up getting really attached to it, always giving it the cutest props to hold. You'll notice as I go on that a lot of my choices are Pokemon that would fall under a stereotypical girly Pokemon moniker, but honestly the cute ones are just my favourites, and Minccino is definitely one of the cutest. I'm excited to see that it seems to be an early game Pokemon in this year's Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield, and I can't wait to use it alongside the new Fire type starter, Scorbunny. Speaking of Fire types, that's the next type, and my favourite from there isn't Scorbunny, but it is a starter. It's Braixen. Braixen is just so cute and cool. I love its witch and training motif. I rarely pick Fennekin in my X and Y playthroughs since Stealfox is just so outclassed as a starter, but Fennekin is definitely my favourite starter in Kalos, and it's all thanks to Braixen. The thing I love the most about Braixen is its portrayal in Pokémon Tournament, and it was actually my secondary when I played the game more regularly. I even had a Braixen OC when I was younger, a male named Kitsu, because I liked Braixen so much. Next up is Water type, and my favourite Water type is Suicune. Honestly, I feel this is a little of a cop-out answer since Suicune is a box art legendary, but I just love Suicune so much. Before I was allowed to have a console of my only interaction with Pokemon was through the anime and the cards, and one time my mother bought me two Pokemon DVDs that were on clearance, Pokemon Forever and Pokemon Heroes. I watched them over and over as a kid, and that's how I fell in love with Suicune. Suicune is beautiful and graceful, and I love everything about it. Its design, its lore, its abilities both in the canon and in actual battles. Suicune is just so amazingly cool, and that's what makes it my favourite water type. Now we have Electric type, and my favourite Electric type is Minun. Minun is the only Generation 3 Pokemon on this list, and it's also my 4th favourite Pokemon of all time. By the way, my top 5 are all on this list, and I'll mention it when they appear. Anyway, Minun. I honestly can't say what draws me to Minun so much. I know when I was younger I preferred Plusle, but I guess as I grew up Minun just grew on me. I think it might be a combination of my love for the Pokemon Ranger series, specifically the first game, and that shiny Minun is my favourite colour, but it might also have something to do with a moment very special to me, when me and my then girlfriend, now very good friend, and I exchanged Pokemon plushies as a sign of our feelings towards each other. I gave her my Shaman, and she gave me her Minun. All of those things combined are probably why I really like Minun. Speaking of grass types, that's the next type, and my favourite grass type is not Shaman, it's actually Meganium, but Shaman will make an appearance lower down on the list, wink wink. Anyway, Meganium. I absolutely love the Johto region, and anytime I play through it, I just have to use Chikorita, Bayleaf, and Meganium. People often look down on Meganium as the worst Generation 2 starter, but honestly those people just don't know how to use it. Sure, being a grass type means it struggles against every gym in Johto, aside from Whitney and Chuck, but if you build your team right to support Meganium, rather than rely on it to steamroll the game, you'll see that Meganium is actually a really well balanced Pokemon. A few years ago, back in the Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire days, I also qualified for my local Pokemon VGC Regional Championships with a team that had Meganium as the star player. I didn't end up winning all my matches, but I did pretty well, and my opponents complimented me for using a Pokemon I love so effectively, even the ones that beat me. Those memories are what makes Meganium my favourite grass-type Pokemon. Next is Ice-type, and oh boy, this is going to be a special one. My favourite Ice-type Pokemon, and also my favourite Pokemon of all time, is Alolan Vulpix. I just love every single thing about Alolan Vulpix. It's so cute, even cuter than regular Vulpix, who I also adore. It evolves into the gorgeous Alolan Ninetales, who I used to beat every challenge in Alola's battle tree, both in Sun and Ultra Sun, because it's just so useful as a support Pokemon who can hit kinda hard when it counts. The fact that it's based off Arctic foxes, which are my favourite animals, makes me love it even more. Its colours, both as a regular and as a shiny, are so good looking, and better than anything I could have ever imagined. I love that Lily has one in the anime, since Lily is my favourite character in all of Pokemon canon. I even have my own plushie of Alolan Vulpix. I just really love Alolan Vulpix, and that's why it's both my favourite Ice-type Pokemon and my favourite Pokemon overall. Well, after that, let's go back to something a bit less intense. Fighting type is next, and my favourite fighting type is Gallade. Gallade's just really cool in my opinion. I love using him in-game because of his amazing move pool. I also love that they changed Wally's Gardevoir into a Gallade in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, as Wally is another favourite character of mine. Gallade's Mega Evolution, along with another list member's Mega Evolution, also struck a chord with me when they were revealed in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, but I'll talk more about that when we get to the other Pokemon. For now, just know that Gallade is super cool, and that makes him my favourite fighting type. After fighting, we have Poison, and my favourite Poison type is Haunter. I'm not sure what it is about Haunter that draws me to it, though now that I say draws, I realise what it is. Back in high school, sometimes I'd doodle in class, and one of my favourite things to draw was Haunter. Its design is simple enough to replicate, but detailed enough where it takes time to get it just right, and I honestly like it much more than both Gengar and Mega Gengar. I've got a shiny Haunter from an old shiny badge quest I did in Pokemon Soul Silver, and I never evolved it, despite trading it to a different game, because I just love Haunter so much, and that's why it's my favourite Poison type Pokemon. Next up, we have Ground type, and my favourite Ground type is Gastrodon. I was never really the biggest fan of Shellos or Gastrodon when I was younger, but as I got older, I started watching videos on a YouTube channel called The National Dex. You may have heard of them, but I'll be brief in my outline of them. The National Dex was a channel run by two hosts, Alex and Kelly, and every episode gives trivia and battle strategy on the different Pokemon. One of the hosts, Kelly, really likes Gastrodon, and I wasn't sure why, so I watched a bunch of videos where she talks about Gastrodon, and started using it myself. Before I knew it, I'd fallen in love with Gastrodon's cute slimy body and adorable lost puppy dog face. Because of this, I always name my Gastrodon Kellen if they're male, or Kelly if they're female, in her honor, because she allowed me to love a Pokemon I never would have thought of. Also, West Sea is best Sea. Flying type is up next, and this is where the aforementioned Shaman comes into play. Bet you forgot I mentioned it back in Grass type, huh? Shaman, specifically Shaman Skyform, is my favourite flying type Pokemon because I just love its design so much. I have a clear memory of seeing adverts for Platinum posted all over my local game stores, and they'd always show off this new form of Shaman, a Pokemon I didn't even know existed at that age, and I begged my mother to get me a copy of Platinum so I could get one. I never got that copy of Platinum, but as I got older and discovered the World Wide Web, I managed to get my hands on a shiny Shaman through an online GTS trade, though I'm honestly not sure how, and it was most likely hacked. But I traded it to my Soul Silver and let it transform and follow me around, and I was the happiest kid on the block. That memory is why Shaman Skyform has always stuck with me, and why it's my favourite flying type Pokemon. Next up, we've got Psychic type, and my favourite Psychic type Pokemon is Meowstic, specifically the male variant, though I also adore the female variant. This is another shiny based story, much like the last one, when X and Y had just released. I was about 13 or 14, and had just begun to dig deep into the world of Pokemon outside of just playing the games. Competitive battling, IV breeding, and shiny hunting were all things I wanted to try in this new generation of Pokemon. I watched a bunch of guides and did so much reading about the mechanics, and before I knew it, I had become a first-class competitive breeder and a decent battler too. The one thing I did struggle with, however, was the length and patience of shiny hunting. I'd made some friends during this time, and one of them saw how frustrated I was that I couldn't find a shiny, so they gave me one of theirs, a Meowstic. It didn't have a nickname, so I asked to have it be called Cream Cheese before turning it over, since the pale yellow fur of shiny Meowstic reminded me of a creamy cheese. I loved Cream Cheese so much, but sadly the save file here was almost corrupted, and I lost him forever. I've been too heartbroken to try ever since that day, but I'll still pick up a male Meowstic every time I go through Kalos, and that's why it's my favourite Psychic type Pokemon. Continuing on, the next type is Bug type, and my favourite Bug type Pokemon is Ribombee. Ribombee is the only Generation 7 Pokemon on this list, but I really just love Ribombee's design. I'm not a fan of many bug type Pokemon since I don't really like bugs in real life, but Cutiefly and Ribombee are just really cute, and cuteness is what I tend to gravitate towards. I also love that they're part Fairy type, since Fairy is my favourite type. There's not really much else for me to say here, I just think that Ribombee is very cute, and that's why it's my favourite bug type Pokemon. Next up, we have Rock type, and my favourite Rock type Pokemon is Diancie. Earlier, during Gallade's section in Fighting type, I mentioned that Gallade's Mega Evolution and another Mega Evolution struck a chord with me during their reveal in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. That Mega Evolution is Diancie's. Seeing Mega Diancie and Mega Gallade fight each other in the animated trailer was super cool, and I instantly fell in love with the two of them. Diancie's princess-like design is also really cool, and it reminds me of my love for princesses, because I was raised on Disney movies. Since Diancie is also part Fairy type, it ranks highly among my favourites, though that's just because it's Fairy type. Can't forget about Carbink though, as they share traits, and I think that Carbink is also quite cute, but Diancie is very elegant and powerful, on top of its cuteness, and that's why it's my favourite Rock type Pokemon. Next up, we have Ghost type, and my favourite Ghost type Pokemon is Gourgeist. When it was revealed, I wasn't that big a fan of Gourgeist, I much preferred its companion Grass Ghost type, Trevenant. However, a friend once suggested to use Gourgeist as a bulky support Pokemon on a competitive team I was building, and I've loved using Gourgeist ever since. I've also grown attached to the design, since I think it's just creepy enough that it's also cute, but the part about it strangling children with its hair-like arms is a little distasteful. But putting that aside, Gourgeist is still a really cool ghost type, and though it does lose out to Haunter as my favourite between the two, Haunter took the poison type slot, so that my love of Gourgeist could be shared, and that's how I decided that Gourgeist is my favourite ghost type Pokemon. Next up, we have Dragon type, and my favourite Dragon type, as well as my 5th favourite Pokemon, is Dragonair. Dragonair is just so elegant, and I wish that Dragonite wasn't such a departure from it so I could like it just as much. Dragonair though is just so amazing, and I often have a hard time making myself evolve Dragonair because of how much I like it. I've also found pretty good battle success with Dragonair, utilizing its unevolved state to make a bulky Eviolite and Shed Skin strategy. Dragonair also reminds me of Haku from the Studio Ghibli film Spirited Away, and Dragonair's name in Japanese is actually Hakuryu, which combines Haku, a reading of the Japanese word for white and also the name of the character from Spirited Away, and Ryu, the Japanese word for dragon. All of these things are what makes Dragonair so cool to me, and it's why it's my favorite dragon type Pokemon. Well, after that quick Japanese lesson, it's time for the next type, Dark type. My favorite Dark type Pokemon is Umbreon. Umbreon isn't even my favorite evolution. That title goes to its counterpart Espeon, but Umbreon is easily a close third after Sylveon. I just love Umbreon's design so much, the sleek black body accented with glowing yellow rings and those sharp red eyes. I also love how its ability to secrete toxic sweat comes from its beta design days as a poison type evolution. For a long time, Umbreon was also my favorite Pokemon, but it got bumped down quite a few pegs as I grew older and my tastes changed. Still, Umbreon has a special place in my heart, and that's why it's my favorite Dark type Pokemon. Alright, we're in the home stretch now, only 2 types left to go. The first of the 2 is Steel type, and my favorite Steel type Pokemon is Lucario. Lucario is also my second favorite Pokemon after Alolan Vulpix. Lucario is very special to me, because I was the only one out of the 4 kids in my family playing Diamond and Pearl to ever evolve my Riolu. It was me, my younger brother, and 2 cousins that were aged between us. We all got the Riolu egg from Riley on Iron Island, and we all tried to evolve Riolu in various different ways. Those 3 played for power, so they just battled with it to level up and see where that got them, and when they got impatient with that, they just gave up on their Riolu. But I treated mine with kindness, since I'd played Pokemon like the role-playing game it actually is, and eventually it evolved into Lucario. Back then I didn't even realize friendship was what caused it, so I was deemed godly by my cousins and brother. Ever since, Lucario has had a special place in my heart, always near the top of my list, but not quite there, and that childhood memory is why Lucario is my favorite Steel-type Pokemon. Finally, we reach the last type, Fairy type. My favorite Fairy type Pokemon and also my 3rd favorite Pokemon is Clefairy. Coincidentally, Fairy is also my favorite type, which I've already mentioned, so that's why a few of my other mentions throughout the list have been part Fairy type. Clefairy, much like Alolan Vulpix, ranks so highly with me because of its association with Lily. I was heartbroken when she left for Kanto at the end of Sun and Moon, and the Pokédoll she gave me is still in my inventory to this day. Lily even uses one when she battles in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Clefairy also fits my aesthetic of Pokemon that are just cute, and it also has ties with the moon, another thing I like about Pokemon that I forgot to mention with Umbreon. I've also used Clefairy very well in competitive play, as many people have. All of those reasons are why Clefairy is my favorite Fairy type Pokemon. Well, that's it, my favorite Pokemon for each and every type, as of the making of this video. To summarize, you'll see all my choices on screen now. There are 4 from Generation 1, 3 from Generation 2, 1 from Generation 3, 4 from Generation 4, 1 from Generation 5, 4 from Generation 6, and 1 from Generation 7. Those numbers aren't really important, but I thought I'd mention them just for fun. Anyways, that's it for my first ever scripted video. I had a lot more fun than I thought I would making it, and I can't wait until next week's scripted video, where we'll be discussing some crazy custom Fire Emblem Heroes units that I've been designing. Until next time guys, bye!